The Blackmagic Design Speed Editor is now coming up for its 3rd birthday. And I've been using mine with Davinci Resolve for some time now. For the most part, it's been a convenient tool that's helped speed up my editing workflow. However, that's not to say it hasn't got a few frustrating elements to its form or function. Also, since it was first launched, we've seen a few significant updates to the cut page with Davinci Resolve 18.5 and 18.6, introducing a raft of new features and interface improvements. So, in today's video, I'm going to address whether this speed editor is still fit for purpose, or are its best years behind it. Before we get started, do make sure you stay tuned to the whole video, as I'll also be covering some of my favourite recent improvements to the cut page in Davinci Resolve as we take a closer look at working with the speed editor. Also, as a thank you to you all for supporting the channel and to celebrate recently reaching 12,000 subscribers, I'll be doing a giveaway that I'll be announcing details of at the end of the video. Firstly, a word about the cut page. The cut page in Davinci Resolve has seen some fantastic improvements in versions 18.5 and now 18.6. One of the new improvements I really like is the addition of the new menu structure here on the left of the main toolbar. It neatens up what was previously a little messy and had functions that perhaps were less important, but now it has 3 clear menus that allow timeline options, timeline actions, and edit actions. Some of the other new features that the cut page has seen are found within these menus, and I think if you look at what Blackmagic Design are trying to do with the cut page is to give it some standalone functionality with a few carryovers from the traditional edit page to make the complete editing experience possible with just the cut and colour pages. Notice I said cut and colour, as these are the 2 pages currently available on the iPad version of Davinci Resolve, and I think what we're seeing is more of a move to a fully featured cut page now because of this need for the cut page to work by itself as the primary editing tool for a lot of different types of content creators. This actually moves us on nicely to the speed editor, as this handy little keyboard works not only with the full version of Davinci Resolve on your desktop, but also with your laptops and iPads as well. This, in my opinion, is a real benefit of the speed editor. Its form is very portable and it's easy to take with you away from the studio. It also has Bluetooth connectivity, which means it's straightforward to set up and doesn't have any wires dangling around. The layout of the keys on the speed editor are well considered and put your hands in the right places for most tasks, and we'll talk about workflow in just a little bit. I have also seen people use the speed editor in a less conventional way, as they like the benefit of the search dial to spool through footage but still need hands on a traditional keyboard and occasionally a mouse as well. This brings me to one of my first issues with the speed editor. I find that I am still having to go back and forth between my speed editor, my mouse and my keyboard a lot more than I'd ideally like, and that's because the speed editor simply doesn't have the real estate to hold more keys, and frankly that would defeat the object of having a light portable keyboard. The good thing, however, is that it doesn't take up much space on the desk and it's easy to move it when you're using it and then push it away when you're not. Let's now focus on some of the tasks that the speed editor is great at. I personally use it all the time, especially in the cut page for my initial perusal of footage and whilst building my rough timelines. I've done a lot of documentary and interview-based content, and I find that it's very easy to work my way through my footage using the search dial and the source tape, which, by the way, is one of my favourite things about the cut page, and I have previously made a video all about the source tape, so if you'd like to see that, check out the links in the description and in the top corner. But let me show you how it works in reality, building a timeline using the source tape and the search dial on the speed editor. So here we are in the cut page of Davinci Resolve, and I've got a basic project loaded in here and I'm ready to start looking through my main footage from my interview. So in this case, I'm just going to jump straight to the source tape, which is this option right here, and you can click that to jump to the source tape. Now, I already have mine sorted into scene and shot because I want to look for a specific scene. You can obviously have that sorted by whichever way you'd like. Traditionally, it will come defaulted to clip name, but in this instance, we've got scene and shot, so we'll click that, and I'm looking for some interview footage, so I'm going to come down to my scene, which I've labelled up interview, and the great thing about the source tape, if you notice, what it's done is it's taken all of the footage that's in my master bin, regardless of whichever bin it's actually located in, and it's just dumped everything onto one long timeline. So if I scroll through here, you can see we can kind of start scrolling through all of the footage that makes sense, which is absolutely really cool. And you'll notice how the media pool section of my interface is updating to show me where that clip lives in relation to the rest of my media. So what I want to do is I want to scroll through to my interview footage, grab my interview sort of scene, it jumps straight to the right place in the source tape, and we can start watching through. Now I happen to know that this is the particular shot that I want to work with, and this scene in particular is the one I want to work with as well. So what I can do is on the actual speed editor, I can press source. And now that I've jumped into the interview bin as such, we can now look at that on the source tape with a little bit more freedom here to scroll through. And again, I'm going to use the search wheel on the speed editor here to go through and have a look at my footage. Now, we're just going to play a couple of sequences through, and I'm going to show you how easy this is to now use the source tape and add this footage down onto my narrative timeline. So here we go.
I'm Precious Adams. I'm a ballerina with the English National Ballet.
Cool, I love that bit. So I'm going to mark it out using the speed editor. I'm going to stick that down onto the timeline using the smart insert. And we're still in the source tape. We can start carrying on forward by pressing play.
I'm also a student with the University of London.
Okay, just to roll that back a little bit.
I'm Precious Adams. I'm a ballerina with the English National Ballet.
I like this bit. We're going to mark that as an in coming forward.
I'm also a student with the University of London. I study computer science.
I'm just going to cut that before she says I'm going to put this in. I'm going to hit a pen key to append this to my edit. I'm going to come back to my source tape. I'm going to mark it in here.
I would describe myself as very self-motivated, very determined. I really like the word creative athlete.
I'm going to hit an Alt key there. I'm going to append this to my edit.
To describe myself as well. Yeah. And
I'm just going to go here, mark it in.
I love what I do. Yeah, I love what I do.
There we go. I'm just going to mark it out. I'm going to pop it on my timeline. So very quickly, if I just jump to the timeline using the source tape, I can quickly whip back through. In fact, if I go to the scroll rather than the jog, I can zip back through to the timeline, go back to jog again, press forward.
I'm Precious Adams.
Okay, there's a little bit I want to trim off the beginning there, so I'm just going to hit the trim in and just trim the in off that a little bit, so we just go right into the meat of it.
I'm Precious Adams. I'm a ballerina with the English National Ballet.
This is pretty good.
I'm also.
I don't want to cut. I don't want to have the R there, so we're just going to get rid of that.
I'm also a student. Also a student.
Overdone it slightly.
I'm also a student with.
Cool. One thing we can do in the cut page now in 18.6 is we can also press this little toggle button just here to enlarge our track, and we can just see our audio a little bit better.
Also a student with the University of London.
Another thing that you may have noticed is that the volume is a little bit low, and the great thing is the speed editor has a key that allows us to do something with that. So if we press and hold the audio level down and then roll our search dial, we can actually increase the audio level.
Study computer science. I would describe it.
And then what we're going to do is just do the same on these other clips, just to make it a little bit easier for us to work with. Not too loud. Through here, just quickly adjust these little 4 clips that we've got. Very good.
The English National Ballet. I'm also.
Okay, as you can see, we've clearly overdone that bit. I'm going to have the R in there.
Now with the English National Ballet. I'm also a student with the University of London. National Ballet. I'm also a student with the University of London. I study
that little bit in the middle. So the way we do that, we press the split. And then we're going to use the
University of London. I study computer science.
I'll get rid of the at the end of her sentence there.
Computer science. I would describe myself as science. I would.
Problem just there on a tweak. And the whole time that I'm doing this, notice that I'm working very quickly with my trim in and trim out because I'm using the benefit of the smart indicator, which has been updated in 18.5 and 18.6 to show us that we now have this flashing green line showing us that this is the edit point that is nearest to our playhead and the one that we're going to affect if we start pressing our trim in, trim out and roll keys. So in this instance, notice that as soon as even if I'm here, I can press trim in to trim my in or trim out to trim my out of the edit point that is most closely located to the smart indicator. So roll it back. Let's have a get another go.
I would describe myself as very self-motivated, very.
Let's get it done. So do that. I'm just going to hit the split.
Very.
Actually, what we do here is rather than trim in, we can actually just hit split again and then roll the search dial back and then hit ripple delete.
Motivated, very determined. I really like the.
Let's get rid of that. Where she pauses there. I'm going to split that. Forward. There we go.
I really like the word creative word.
Again, another little arm. We're just going to get rid of that for her. Roll that like that by just taking the trim out.
Creative athlete. I love what I do.
I just think we bit a little bit too much off there, so let's just take that back.
I love what I do.
And I think actually there's a little bit after this we missed.
Describe myself as well. creative athlete to describe myself as well. I love what I do. Yeah, I love what I do.
Cool. We're just going to take that back ever so slightly. There we go. And now what we want to do is quickly review our edit. So we're just going to press this button here to do a full view. In fact, in this case, what we'll do is we'll actually just escape out of there, and we'll come back to the beginning. Review it from the beginning.
I'm Precious Adams. I'm a ballerina with the English National Ballet. I'm also a student with the University of London. I study computer science. I would describe myself as very self-motivated, very determined. I really like the word creative athlete to describe myself as well. I love what I do. Yeah, I love what I do.
An area that the Speed Editor has come under criticism for is the large area of its layout that is reserved purely for multicam workflows. I mean, it's a large portion of the keyboard. For me, perhaps the people who might be interested in the Speed Editor from a price point perspective are probably not cutting 9 cameras together at once, so perhaps some additional functions and shortcut keys could have been added here instead. In fact, let me know in the comments below if you like the multicam buttons or if you would like to see this changed in future versions of the Speed Editor. That said, I have found that the multicam functions of the Speed Editor are helpful, especially when you're working with sync media and in particular the sync bin on the cut page. Let's dive into Davinci Resolve and I'll show you what I mean. So here we are back in the cut page and we have our little narrative going together quite nicely, but this is where the Speed Editor works really well, and particularly the sync bin feature on the cut page as well, because this shot was filmed with 2 cameras. So we actually have this main camera angle, we have another camera angle, and they are in sync with timecode. And the beautiful thing about that is it means that automatically they show up in the sync bin together when I'm looking at this timeline, and I can very quickly add additional angles to this to make it a little more exciting. So in this instance, what I'm going to do, I'm going to find my clips, which I have actually put away in a multicam folder so that we've got these 2 clips here. And because we're looking at this particular bin and we're looking at this timeline, if I now come and press the sync bin or press this on the Speed Editor keyboard, there we go, it's gone ahead and it's showing me the area that's in sync in the sync bin window with the area that's in sync with my timeline. If I hit play, you'll see what happens here.
I'm Precious Adams. I'm a ballerina with the English National Ballet.
Cool. So as you can see, we've got the 2 angles. We've got our second angle now showing up over here in this window, if you can see. And what we want to do is add an additional angle. So let's have a look at this piece.
I'm a ballerina with the English National Ballet. I'm also a student with the University.
Cool. So let's say we want to cut into a tighter angle here as she talks just about studying at the theatre. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this in, and what we need to do is press camera 2. And in this case, we don't want to bring in any extra audio, so we're just going to go to video only. And now what we can do is you can see it's cut us out a little section already. Automatically a 5-second section has been cut out. And if we want to, we can simply press Source Overwrite, and that's going to throw that down onto the timeline for us. So if I now just go back and see what's happening.
I'm also a student with.
In fact, if I go to the timeline, you'll see it's even more better.
I'm also a student with the University of London.
Now we've got a slight mismatch on the resolution and the ratio here, so we're going to have to fix that in just a moment, but we can do that very easily. Now we've got a situation where I'm on the timeline, and actually I only want to cut in closer for this particular part of the shot and go back to the wide shot for this clip number 3. So what I want to do here is press camera 2 again. Now I'm in the timeline, and now you'll see that my edit point has jumped up to the one on the top. I can now trim the out and trim this back to where I want it and leave it there. So let's just have a look at this again.
I'm also a student with the University of London. I study computer science. I would describe myself.
Let's say we want to cut in again at this point. We can now use a really cool element of the cut page and again the Speed Editor together. So if I go to the sync bin again, now I know I want to bring in camera 2. So I'm going to bring camera 2 into the viewer by pressing camera 2. So what I can do here now is I can actually hold down camera angle number 2, and I can start writing on with the search dial. And you can see how I paint on my second angle. Like that. So now I've just painted that angle on beautifully. If I go back to my title, see what's happened.
I study computer science. I would describe myself as very self-motivated, very determined. I really like the word.
Okay, so we've got
And I really like the word.
Let's just trim our edit slightly to make more sense.
And I really like the word creative athlete.
It's not the best edit necessarily, but let's just have another look at that. So back to the sync bin, we're going to cut camera angle 2 in again. So I'm going to press camera angle 2, live overwrite on, camera angle 2 down, and I'm just going to paint out that angle. Very good. Go to the timeline.
The word creative athlete to describe myself as well. I love what I do.
And we can do that again one more time. Let's go to the sync bin. Let's bring it in here. Perfect. Live overwrite on, camera 2 held down, and we'll just paint that out.
Yeah.
And then we'll just have a look at what we've done.
I love what I do. Yeah, I love what I do.
One of the new features we have available to us now in 18.6 is the ability to toggle off the timeline ripple for clips on video track 1, so that now we can build out the edits in the cut page when we're ready to. Previously, we would have had to jump to the edit page to accomplish the same task. I also use the source tape to move through my B-roll footage quickly as well, and then using the speed editor, I can very easily add this to my timeline as I continue to build my edit out. I love the fact that we can now stabilize multiple clips at once using the inspector, which we now have in the cut page as well as the edit page. There's probably much more to be said about the speed editor, but what are my thoughts overall, having used it regularly for the last 3 years? Firstly, who is the speed editor for? I think the speed editor is a perfect fit for anyone who has never used a professional editing keyboard before. For me, the search dial in particular is one of the best ways of moving through your footage and being able to navigate your timeline. It's so intuitive and allows you to work very accurately, which isn't always possible when using a mouse or in particular a trackpad. Speaking of laptops and iPads, if you happen to do a lot of editing on the move and are unable to take a proper keyboard or mouse with you, then this is absolutely a perfect fit. In fact, I prefer using the speed editor in place of a keyboard when I have to do any editing on my laptop. Is it just for use in the cut page? The speed editor was certainly designed for the cut page primarily, but in recent updates we have seen the speed editor functionality extend into the other pages within Davinci Resolve. I think the speed editor really shines when used in conjunction with the cut page, and whilst that's great for those people who just use the cut page for a majority of their editing or those working on iPads or laptops, I do find myself personally disappointed when I have to push it away when I move to a different page to continue my edit as I'm working on my main workstation. Having the speed editor though has definitely opened my eyes to how beneficial having a dedicated keyboard is, and whether there is a better solution out there that might remove the need to swap back and forth between my main keyboard and the speed editor. Stay tuned to the channel as I may have more news on that in the next few weeks. Does it make you a faster editor? In my opinion, yes. I think it does. Having that specific set of keys helps you focus your attention on your specific workflow. It gives you the controls to keep your hands in one place and the tactile controls to work accurately, which in turn means you are efficient, which translates into working faster. Once you have overcome the small learning curve and conquered the urge to reach for your mouse and keyboard, it really is a valuable and powerful little tool. Is the speed editor value for money? 100%. This keyboard is value for money. At just under £400, depending on which one your preferred retailer is, not only do you get the speed editor, but you also get a copy of Davinci Resolve Studio for free at the time of recording. This usually costs around £300, so I think this is an absolute no-brainer. The speed editor itself is built well, it's lightweight and easily travels. It improves your editing experience while you're working on laptops and iPads, makes some of the most common editing tasks faster, and it gives you a taste of using the search dial, which is hands down the best thing for video editing. Finally, and most importantly, is the speed editor still fit for purpose, or does it need redesigning? Given all of the recent improvements to the cut page in Davinci Resolve 18.5 and 18.6, the speed editor has still retained all of its usefulness, and I'm happy to say that all of the existing button layout still works as expected and needed when editing video in the cut page. I do feel as though I would love to see a speed editor Mark II with some thought around the need for quite so many camera options in the multicam area. It would be really cool if the speed editor could be redesigned to adopt some of the interesting technology being used in the likes of the Stream Decks by Elgato. Perhaps the middle panel could be intelligent smart buttons that could then be customized in the speed editor control software with different function sets that can then be changed depending on each user's preference or workflow task. Again, let me know in the comment section how you would improve the speed editor Mark II. So with all that said, happy birthday speed editor. Still fit for purpose and full of life despite all of the software changes and additions over the years. Its form and portability make it a perfect companion still for editors on the road and people creating content in the cut page. And it helps you work faster and more accurately than a mouse and keyboard alone. I'm sure we'll probably see a redesign on this little beauty in the coming year or so, which will give it a decent facelift and added functionality to keep it in sync with Davinci Resolve and the cut page especially. I'm really quite excited to see what the future of the speed editor has to offer. So if you like the speed editor and cut page as much as I do, then be sure to hit the like button for this video if you enjoyed it. It's a little bit different to some of the others on the channel, but hopefully it was still entertaining and informative. Lots more videos coming very soon, so stay tuned and make sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any new videos. If you're interested in learning more about how to use Davinci Resolve, whether that be for editing, grading, visual effects, or even sound, then there are ways that I can help you linked in the description below, many of which also help support the channel, and that allows me to make more free content just like this one. Also stay tuned because we will be releasing information about a giveaway that I'll be doing very soon. So if you aren't following us already on Instagram or on YouTube, again, opportunities to hit the subscription button, go over to Instagram and follow us there because we'll be doing some great giveaways and I've got some lovely stuff to give it away as well. So, right, that's enough from me. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon or evening, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.